Whether you're using an inexpensive trim router or a high-end CNC, the router bit is where the work gets done. Now, quality bits are always going to give you the best results, but how your bit is mounted into the collet of your machine is also a critical factor. If you've ever had a bit bend, break, or slip out of the collet while you're working with it, this video is for you. I'll explain bit construction, how collets work, why it's so important where in the collet your bit is set, and how to maintain everything to ensure that you don't have those problems again. And I want to take a minute to thank my friends at Woodpeckers who supplied all of the bits that we'll be using in this video. So now, let's get started. So, most router bits are made of a steel body that carbide is brazed onto, and then the carbide is ground to the final shape and size. And other bits are solid carbide, meaning the shank and the cutting edges are all cut from a single piece of material. Insert router bits, on the other hand, are made of a steel body, have a carbide cutting edge, but the cutting edge isn't brazed on, it's actually attached securely and accurately to the body. These carbide inserts can be rotated to expose fresh cutting edges as needed, and they can be replaced when they get damaged or dull. Woodpecker Tools has pioneered the process of brazing a solid carbide block onto the end of a steel shank and then carving that into the cutting edge. And this method offers advantages for pocketing and grooving bits especially. Bits can be made with a number of different shank diameters. In the US, 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch are the most common, whereas 8mm and 12mm are common in Europe. But other sizes are available as well. The diameter of the shank matters because vibration is always going to be the enemy of clean cuts. If the bit is vibrating, it'll cause chatter and tool marks along the cut edges of your parts. All shanks flex somewhat under load. Thinner shanks will flex more than thicker ones. Due to their geometry, 1/2 inch shanks are not twice as stiff as 1/4, but 8 times stiffer. I prefer to use 1/2 inch shanks over 1/4 inch because of this reduced flexing and chatter. But there are exceptions. With 1/4 inch or smaller bits, starting with a 1/2 inch shank and turning it down to the 1/4 inch neck, whether you're using a solid carbide or a steel body with carbide brazed on, that turned neck becomes the flex point, and that's usually where a bit like that will break. A single piece bit where the shank is the same size and hasn't been milled down is actually, I find it breaks less often. So in those cases, for smaller bits, I'm going to go with the 1/4 inch shank. Now the collet is what holds the router bit into your router. And they come in all sorts of different sizes and shapes depending on the brand and the router that you have. A collet is unlike a drill chuck. The chuck holds your bit with 3 jaws. The collet is made of spring steel, and it actually surrounds the bit on all sides, so that as it clamps, it holds the bit all the way around the circumference and all the way along the length of the collet. It's a much more secure hold. The way this works is that the collet is tapered on both ends in different directions. The nut is also has a taper on the inside that matches the top of the collet. Then as the nut is applied to the shaft of the router, there's a taper inside there that matches the collet here. And so between the two, as you tighten the nut, the collet is being squeezed and all of these slots are being slightly compressed, which allows the collet to grab the shank of the bit all the way around its circumference and all the way through the length of the collet. But always keep in mind that this compression relies on the entire collet squeezing evenly top to bottom. So if your bit does not fill the entire collet, it can grab the bit at an angle rather than straight, and that isn't going to be strong enough, and that can cause the bit to slip out. If the bit slips out, it's going to ruin your part, probably going to damage the shank of your bit, and it's almost certainly going to damage the collet itself. So always make sure that your collet is being filled by the shank of your bit. If extra sticks out, that's okay, but the collet should always be completely filled with the bit if at all possible. If you have to cheat it a little bit, no more than 1/8 or so of the collet. At least 3/4 of the collet should be filled with bit in order to make sure it grips properly. Any less than that, and you're risking it. But I always recommend at least filling the collet. If you don't have enough bit, get a longer bit. Now, larger routers like these here, 1.5 to 2, 2.5 or 3 horsepower, generally come with 2 collets. One that's going to be 1/4 and one that's going to be 1/2 shank. Or if you're in Europe, 8mm and 12mm. But the smaller units, the 1 horsepower or less, trim routers or palm routers as they're sometimes called, they're going to come with a single collet, and it's almost always going to be 1/4 inch. And one more thing about collets before we move on. These are made of spring steel. They do not last forever. The spring steel is a heat treating process. And when you're using it in the router, it's going to get warm and it's going to cool. And it's going to get warm and it's going to cool in a cycle that works every time you use it. Over time, that heating and cooling cycle is going to ruin the temper of this collet. Over time, the collet is not going to spring as well and it's not going to grip as well. They do need to be replaced after a certain amount of use. For the average homeowner, that's only going to be every couple of years, 3-5 years, if you're not using it every day. In a professional shop, I replace collets every year. They can't be trusted after a certain amount of time. And if you start to notice bits slipping, the collet is no good. If you ever have a bit slip, especially if it comes all the way out, chances are the inside of this collet are damaged and it will never properly hold a bit again. So in that case, it should be replaced. They don't last forever. That's why they're replaceable. Now, as I said before, when you're putting the bit into the router, you want at least 3/4 of the collet, preferably all of it, to be filled with bit. But I can't really tell here what that is. So it's never a bad idea. If you're not sure, you can take the collet off. And now I can actually see how much of that bit takes the fill. So the collet is fully filled at about this point. I could mark the bit if I need to. I could put an O-ring or something on here to hold that in place or let me know. And that way I know how much collet is being filled by my bit. Now, most of the woodpecker bits will have a line etched onto it with a little V mark on it, and that's actually your collet line. That's where the recommended entry point for your bit is. You want that collet line to be showing up right at the edge of your collet. And that way, you know that the bit is being supported as well as possible. The further out this bit is, the more pressure there is, the more likely to flex, bend, or break. So set it where it's supposed to be and then lock it down. Now, the other thing to consider, though, is when you're putting a bit into the collet, notice on this bit, there's a little bit of a radius between the shank and where the body expands to take the shape of the carbide. You do not want that curve in your collet. So you definitely don't want to clamp it too far in as well as too far out. So the line's very helpful. But not all bits have that line, so keep all this in mind. You don't want to get involved in the curvature there. You want to be on the flat spot of the bit only. Now, with bits that don't have a marking line on them or whatever, or don't expand outward, you don't have to worry about the curve here, but you do have to worry about the clearance grooves that are milled into the bit for chip load. You do not want that inside the collet. So in this case, the bit, I would stop it before this cutting line here, or this clearance groove, enters the collet. Now you can see here there's plenty of room for that, so I can bring it down a little bit, and I've got enough access to be able to use the bit with this collet perfectly safely. If a bit is overloaded, it can bend or break. Now whether it bends or breaks is going to be dependent on the type of steel used. Some steel is more resilient and will tend to bend rather than break. And that's a choice that a manufacturer makes in order not to have the head of the bit potentially flying off. Most of the time, when a bit breaks, the broken part is embedded in the stock you're cutting and doesn't go flying. But it can, and so you always have to be aware of that. So some manufacturers will use a harder steel that's less flexible but more brittle. Others will use a steel that's a little more flexible but less brittle, more likely to bend than break. It's a decision that the manufacturers make, and there are pros and cons for both. But from a safety standpoint, it's a little bit better if the bit only bends instead of breaking. You still got to replace it either way, but it's a little bit more safe. Now, one more thing to consider on router bits is head size versus shank size. This is a fairly large head bit. There's a lot of steel here. It's fairly heavy. I would be worried about a 1/4 inch shank on a bit like this, not only breaking, but it's also going to flex more. And if this bit flexes under load, you're not going to get the angle that you expect here as it flexes. If this were a joinery bit, your joints may not line up properly because the bit is flexing. So a 1/2 inch shank with a heavier head is not only going to give you a cleaner cut, it's far less likely to break, but it's also going to give you a more accurate cut because the bit isn't flexing as you're trying to make a very precise joint. Now, like any machine in your shop, any system in your shop, maintenance is always going to be key. Keeping it clean is your first job. The shank of the router bit needs to be clean without debris on it. It needs to be free of rust or anything on it that can keep it from gripping properly within your collet. The collets need to be kept clean. Inside the collet here, where it meets the bit, needs to be clean. The outside of the collet, these edges are mating with the angled or tapered edges inside your shank, so those should be clean. The inside of the shank needs to be clean. Keep the dust out. Also, just like your saw blade, when you're cutting with a router bit, the heat generated at the cutting edge will vaporize sap or glue in the cutting area, and that's going to tend to condense on the closest piece of cooler metal, which is usually going to be the back here, but sometimes it's the shank and the collet. You'll see that build up over time. Clean it. Keep it clean. The cleaner that all of these joints are, between the shank and the collet, between the collet and the nut, and between the collet and the shaft of your router, the more clean all of this is, the less likely it is that your bits are going to slip. And remember, slipping is going to ruin your cut, damage your bit, and damage your collet. Your bits can and should be cleaned. When you start to see the buildup on the edges, you can clean them. When you start to see the buildup on or rust on your shafts, you can clean that. There are many commercial cleaners available. I actually happen to use Simple Green and Water. It's non-toxic, it works well, and there is actually a rust inhibitor built into it, so it doesn't tend to rust the tools, but keep it all clean. Your bits can also be sharpened. If you remove the bearings on this bit, you can sharpen it. Now, if you start to find it dull, you're only going to be able to hone it a little bit. You're not going to be able to professionally sharpen it. But especially with profile bits, this is not the edge you want to sharpen. Like scissors, you want to sharpen the face. And there are some good sharpening tools out there. It's carbide, so you're going to want a diamond sharpening tool. This one happens to be pretty nice. It's from Empower Tools. And it's a diamond bit that will allow me to hone this face. And by honing the face, I'm going to resharpen this edge here. The problem is if I try to hone the cutting edge, I'm probably going to damage the edge more than anything else, but honing the face will restore that nice cutting edge for you. And especially if it's a profile, honing the face won't distort the profile very much. Now with insert cutters, if the cutting edges get dull, this is a V-bit, so the cutting edge here and here would probably dull over time. I can take it off, take the insert off, and then I can rotate it, in this case 180 degrees, expose the two new cutting edges, and tighten it back into place with the supplied screw and Allen wrench. In this case, the bit, or the body of the bit, is ground to accept the non-using cutting edge, and that's what locates it in place. So not only am I exposing a fresh edge, but I don't have to worry about aligning it anywhere. It self-aligns between the screw and the body of the bit. And this is fairly typical of all insert bits. Insert bits are a little bit more expensive to buy initially, but when they get dull, all you have to replace is the actual cutting insert. You don't have to replace the entire bit. So if it's something you use very regularly, and I've talked about this in previous videos, this is not a bad way to work if it's a bit that you're going to replace on a regular basis. Everything we've been talking about here with your Collets, bits, and routers also applies to your CNCs. You're still talking about a collet, a nut, and a bit. Whether you have a spindle on your CNC or a router on it, it's all the same. So everything we've talked about here applies there as well. Understanding how your bits, your collets, and your router all work together will help you get the best possible results and the best possible life from your investment. I don't know about you, but I own a lot more money in router bits than I do in routers at this point in my career. So I hope this video has been useful to you, and I invite you to comment or email me if you have any questions. Please like and share this video, subscribe to our channel, and visit woodcademy.com for more great information like this. And again, thanks to my friends at Woodpeckers for supplying all the bits that we used in this video.